$415,000 at age 30, $50,000 per month with no job, 4 index funds to automatic millions. I'm about to expose which viral TikToks can make you rich and which might get you arrested. And we're starting with one that promises to make you millions with just 4 index funds. So let's see if this is legit. So here's how this works. I'll watch each TikTok with you. I'm going to do a breakdown of each one, and I'm going to teach you what will help you and which will wreck your life. The first one has 2.3 million views.
All you have to do is buy these 4 index funds and you'll become a millionaire. And the best part is it's fully automated. First up is VTI. Invest in the entire US stock market, big companies, small companies, you just own a slice of everything. Over the last 10 years, it returned 11.8% annually. That means $10,000 invested a decade ago would be worth over $30,000 today. Next up is QQQ. It tracks the top 100 tech and growth stocks, think Apple, Nvidia, and Microsoft. In the last 10 years, it's averaged 17.6% a year, so $10,000 in 2014, that's now worth around $50,000. It's riskier than VTI, but the growth upside is better here. Next up is VGT, and it focuses just on the high-performing tech companies. Over the last 10 years, it's returned 19.7% per year, which is even better than QQQ. That same $10,000 would be worth over $60,000 today. Number 4 is ARK, which targets disruptive innovation like AI, robotics, and more. Obviously, this is going to be a little bit more volatile, but it's had the years where it's returned 40+%. This is going to be perfect for aggressive investors with a long time horizon. These 4 ETFs give you exposure to the entire market, elite tech, and also high-risk innovation. Just set it and forget it, build real wealth while you sleep. And make sure you give me a follow for more investing tips.
Okay, those returns he mentioned, I fact-checked them, and they're right. VTI, 11.8% over the last 10 years. That's accurate. QQQ at 17.6%. Yeah, that's real. VGT at 19.7%. That's legitimate. And the really bad fund, ARK, he's not lying, but there's more to it. So here's what they're not telling you. These are backward-looking returns. In a bull market, so what happens if you bought QQQ in March of 2000? You know, right before the dot-com crash? You wouldn't break even until 2015. 15 years to get back off of zero. And ARK, oh boy, run by Cathie Wood, that's not investing, that's gambling. Now look, the strategy of diversification across these funds is smart. VTI gives you everything. QQQ gives you major growth. VGT gives you concentrated tech. VTI for your core, 60%. QQQ for growth, maybe 20%. And I personally like some international as well. And I'm also not saying this is the perfect portfolio, but it isn't a bad one. Although I would replace QQQ with QQQM because it's cheaper, but it's the same holding. And skip ARK unless you want to lose for life. The score for this TikTok, 6 out of 10. 1 out of 4 funds that I would definitely hold. 3 out of 4 funds are questionable at best. And I'm not saying each one of those are bad, but I would probably have an alternative for each one of those. And I would definitely not hold ARK because that's what broke people do. And if you remember in 2020, when I told everybody not to invest in ARK publicly, as it made a meteoric rise, we remember what happened after the fact if you ever looked at the chart. The crazy drop-off of the thematic ETF that I've told everybody a million times that the data shows that was going to happen. And I told you it was going to happen before it happened. And especially when everyone called me a dummy online publicly, I was right again. Because I'm the old boring guy that actually wins. But wait, this next person claims they went from $0 to $500,000 and they brought receipts. From $0 to $415,000 at the age of 30, on track to retire by 40, and they're showing the exact numbers, so this better not be crypto. Let's watch.
Here are my exact investments each year as someone on track to retire by 40. At 22, I had $0. I was still in college at this time and I had never really heard of investing. At 23, I had $825. This was the year I got my first full-time job. I started investing the match into my 401k and then everything else went to debt because I graduated with $100,000 in debt. At 24, I had $3,412. I was still just investing the match and then putting everything towards my debt. At 25, this jumped to $24,000. This is when I discovered the Roth IRA. This was at the beginning of 2020, so I immediately maxed it out for 2019. I think I actually used my emergency fund to max it out, and then I spent the rest of the year working on maxing it out for 2020 as well. At 26, I had $58,606 in investments. This was the year I job hopped into a $90,000 salary, but they didn't have a 401k, and they also didn't have a high deductible health plan, so I couldn't invest in my HSA either. At age 27, I had $64,000. My investing definitely slowed down. I wasn't investing outside of retirement accounts, and I didn't have 401k or HSA, so It was just my Roth IRA. But this is also the year I landed my first tech position, increased my salary, and started getting a bonus for the first time ever. At 28, I had around $110,000 in investments. This is when I started really putting my debt on the back burner and focusing only on investing. This was the first year I maxed out all of my retirement accounts, my 401k, Roth IRA, and HSA. At 29, I had $205,000 invested. 2024 was the first year I started taking content creation seriously and being consistent, and the first year I started making significant income outside of my 9-to-5. I put almost every single penny I earned from content creation into investments, and I ended up investing 40% of my income last year. And then today at almost 30, I have around $415,000 invested towards retirement. I continue to put almost all the money I make from social media into my investments, and this year I'm almost on track to investing 60% of my income. It has been so crazy and so motivating to literally double my investments the last 2 years. I couldn't have done it without content creation, increasing my income, and also increasing my income with my 9-to-5. You could literally change your entire future with just 1 year of work. That's what 2024 was to me. It was making a lot of sacrifices to invest 40% of my income and sacrificing, honestly, most of my free time to create videos. My best advice is to stay consistent, know where your money is going, and also make a plan to increase your income. I've been tracking every single one of my dollars and where they go for the last 7 years, and it has been eye-opening and also motivating to see what my money can actually do and what it can give me, meaning retiring by 40. If you want the tool that I use, it is available in my Sandstorm.
Hold on, we need to talk about what just happened. Did you catch the real story? Because I don't think you did. At age 23, $825. Age 24, $3,400. Age 25, $24,000. That's not investment return. She used her emergency fund to max out a Roth IRA. But here's what gets interesting. Age 26, $58,000. How? They mentioned it for like 2 seconds. Dropped into a $90,000 salary. Age 28 to 29, they doubled from $110,000 to $205,000. And they said the quiet part out loud. Started taking content creation seriously. You see what's happening? The investments are just the vehicle. The engine is income. Increase every single year. I just made $2,500 over the last 2 weeks from posting on Instagram alone. Also, job hop for salary increase, starting side hustles, invest 40% of everything. But that 40% savings rate, let's put that in perspective. If you make $70,000, that means living on $42,000. So can you do that? Because that's the real secret. Not some magic investment, not just crypto, just make more, spend less, and invest the difference. So score here, 9 out of 10. This is the most honest wealth building content I've seen out there. But this next guy is about to tell us everything that I just said is wrong. And the scary part, he might have a point. Investments never made anyone rich. That's a bold claim when I just saw someone with $415,000. So let's see what this is about.
Investments never made anyone rich. Investments don't make poor people rich. Investments make rich people wealthy. Don't think that you're just gonna throw $1,000 into a coin and then it's gonna be worth $7 million. Let's say it does become $7 million. Let's say that you practically win the lottery in that situation. Okay, cool, you got $7 million. You have absolutely no skill set. You have absolutely no knowledge. You have no assets. You have nothing that's gonna carry through for the rest of your life. So what, you're gonna live off that $7 million for the next 30 years? Okay, cool.
So this is gonna upset some people, but think about our last TikToker that made $415,000. Did investments make them rich? No, their $90,000 salary and content creation made them rich. Then they just invested. He's saying that investments make rich people wealthy, not poor people rich. And look at every billionaire. Bezos didn't invest his way there. He built Amazon. Musk built companies. They got rich first. But where he's dead wrong, $500 a month for 30 years at 10% returns, that is $1.1 million. So you put in $180,000 and the market gives you $920,000. That's not making rich people wealthy. That's making regular people millionaires. Problem is, he's talking about getting rich quick. And he's right, investments won't do that. But getting wealthy slowly, that's exactly what investments do. Score 5 out of 10. I know I'm on. Half brilliant insight, half dangerous discouragement. But this next one, guys, I had to use Google to see if this was even legal. And what I found, $50,000 a month in passive income, you don't need that job anymore. This is either genius or complete BS. So let's find out.
You don't need that job anymore. $50,000 a month is about to be your new normal. And the reason I know this is because I'm about to teach you something that I wish I knew a long time ago. You know what a trust fund is, right? When you think of a trust fund, you think of someone wealthy that puts all their assets in a trust fund so they can protect them and pass them down to their children. But I bet you didn't know that it's not people who are already wealthy that get a trust fund. People who are broke get a trust fund, and they use it to become wealthy. Now you're wondering, how do they do it? Well, I'm about to tell you, so make sure you save this video. So you open up a trust fund, which anybody can do, and you buy an asset to put in that trust fund. Now, if you're thinking, well, I don't have an asset to put in the trust fund, what people will do is they'll just go and buy a life insurance policy. And life insurance policies are very inexpensive. You can get in $1 million policy for like $100 a month. Then you put the life insurance policy inside of the trust fund. Now the trust fund is worth $1 million if you bought $1 million policy to put in the trust fund. And then you do what the ultra rich do. People like Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk, they don't just have billions of dollars sitting in a bank account. Their wealth is tied to their stock. So when they need money, they go to a bank and they borrow money and they just use their stock as collateral. And you can do the same thing with your trust fund. Because you have a life insurance policy in your trust fund, you can now borrow against the value of that life insurance policy. Now, obviously, if you borrow the money, you can do whatever you want with it. But the smart people, they take it and they use it to go invest and buy businesses. They'll go out and they'll buy small franchises, or they'll team up with other investors and go out and buy things like apartment buildings. And then when they start collecting the profits from their investments and their businesses, they go back and they pay off the loan that they used to get those businesses in the first place. And once they've paid off their debts, they're still collecting the money from their businesses, so they're financially free. And as long as they continue to save and reinvest that money, they're now financially free and can start creating generational wealth for their family.
I'm going to stop there. No. Everyone stop. This is exactly how people end up going bankrupt and going to prison. Let me explain why this is dangerous. Problem one, you cannot borrow against a term life insurance policy that only pays out when you die. You need a whole life or universal life with cash value. For a 30-year-old, $1 million policy with cash value, minimum $800 to $1,200 a month, not $100. Problem two, banks don't just hand out loans because you have life insurance. They want collateral, real liquid collateral. Guess what? Insurance isn't. Problem three, and this is the illegal part, if you lie about anything to get these loans, that's fraud, federal fraud. And even if you somehow pulled this off, the IRS considers borrowing from a trust as a distribution. That's taxable income, plus penalties, plus interest. This isn't strategy. This is a YouTube script designed to sell courses to desperate people. You know what Bezos actually does? He borrows against his Amazon stock worth billions of dollars. He built that over decades, not life insurance. Score -10. So if someone tries to sell you this strategy, run. This could ruin your life. So let me rank these from best to worst. First place, the personal journey, 9 out of 10, real numbers, real sacrifice, real results. Second, ETF research, 6 out of 10, actual skills you need. Third, investments don't make you rich, 5 out of 10, controversial but partially true. Dead last, the trust fund strategy, -10, literally dangerous. But here's the pattern. TikToks with real value, lesser views. The insane promises, millions of views. So you know what that means? The algorithm is training people to give bad advice. The more outrageous the claim, the more the views, and the more money they make. So here's what you actually need to know. 1, increase your income, job hop, side hustle, whatever it takes. 2, live on less than 70% of what you earn. Yes, it hurts. 3, invest in boring index funds consistently. 4, wait 20 to 30 years. That's it. No tricks, no hacks, no trust funds. But here's what I want to know. Which one would you have fallen for? And be honest in the comments, because next week I'm exposing the investment hack that got 47 people arrested last year. And it's still trending on TikTok. So subscribe if you want to see that. And remember, if someone on TikTok promises you'll never need a job again, check if they're selling a course first. Peace.